This is CBC Here and Now.
We have identified things that we are rectifying.
More than 200,000 patient and staff files. Cyber attackers got a lot more than we were told last year. Coming up on Here and Now.
People complained about COVID, not seeing the family. Let them go through what we had all those years, and they'll know what it's like.
Isolated, away from friends and family.
This couple says they are stuck, unable to move to another part of the province.
Their plea to Newfoundland and Labrador housing just ahead.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We begin tonight with a COVID update.
In just 1 week, ICU admissions in the province have nearly quadrupled.
Yeah, since Monday's update, 7 more people in the province have died of COVID-19. 2 of those deaths happened in the central region of the island. There were 5 deaths in the eastern region. And looking at the age breakdown here, 1 of those people was in their 50s, 1 was in their 60s, and another in their 70s. The remaining 4 patients were 80 years of age or older. While hospitalizations have remained stable at 40, there are now 11 people in the intensive care unit. That's nearly 4 times the number from 1 week ago. Now, the health minister says these numbers are not surprising. John Haggie says as the province opens up, case numbers will rise. He says that when COVID cases increase, we always see more hospitalizations, usually about 10 days later.
We've been hearing very, very loudly, particularly from families and people in personal care and long-term care homes, that the isolation is literally killing them. So it's a balance that Dr. Fitzgerald walks, and we help her with that. But at the end of the day, it's life with COVID.
Haggie says COVID trends across the country indicate our case numbers and hospitalizations should dip in the coming weeks. Well, staying with healthcare, on Friday, Ottawa announced $2 billion in funding for provinces and territories to help clear surgery backlogs. Thousands in this province are waiting for surgery. When asked what that money will mean for Newfoundland and Labrador, the health minister says it's important to ensure COVID is under control before stressing the system with more surgeries.
We believe it's around $27 million, which would be our share. It's not clear whether that's a one-off payment or whether it will come in divided amounts. And we're asking the RHAs and working with our staff in the department to see how we could spend that. I think the first thing we have to do, though, is deal with the rising case numbers and hospitalizations and make sure that we're on the back end of that before we look to stressing the system any further. Because as I said, in another context, the staff on the floors at the moment are really challenged to deal with the work they have now.
Well, staying with another matter that's occupied Dr. Haggie, considerably more people are victims of the healthcare cyber attack than was initially reported. 5 months ago, the province revealed that patient and employee information files had been taken. Eastern Health now says it could take 2 more months to untangle exactly how many people have been affected. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
Eastern Health says it learned a month ago that an additional 200,000 files dating back as far as 1996 were taken. That's on top of the thousands of files health officials say were stolen after the system was hacked on October 30th. But it's still unknown exactly how many people are affected.
The number could be large, could be thousands of individuals at the end of the day between staff and patients, but that'll become clear as we do the work over the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Each affected person will be sent a notification letter.
Since the cyber attack, we've been working very hard to...
Eastern Health CEO David Diamond says there's no evidence that stolen health or banking information has been misused, but the availability of credit monitoring services has been extended until the end of this year. The provincial opposition party says it's disappointed that the provincial government isn't telling people more. PC leader David Brazel says he understands that some details need to be protected, but he believes more information should be made public.
We're still not aware of really what went on, the process used, what mechanisms they have in play, and what impact it has on people.
Thank you for joining us today.
Health Minister John Haggie says the province now has a better understanding of what happened, but he's not sharing that information, including who's behind the hack, whether or not the hackers asked for a ransom or if the province paid one.
It would be unwise to go into too many specifics, again, for reasons of security. It's a bit like giving a burglar your passcode for your alarm system.
The health minister also didn't say how much the cyber attack has cost the province so far, but he said more information about that should be included in the budget next week. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
RCMP detachment phone lines are down. For emergencies, police say to call 911, and if it isn't pressing, they are asking you to visit the detachment office in person or make the report a little later if you can. In a release this afternoon, the RCMP says it's working to fix the issue, but for the time being, phone lines to local detachments are out of service.
Well, just have a look at this. Wow, more than 400 centimeters of snow has fallen in Red Bay, Labrador this winter. Some residents, like Ross Pike, say that it's getting pretty scary and stressful, and I can definitely see why. Just look at the pictures he shared with us. This is Ross's home, completely smothered in snow. It's up past the windows and right up to the roof. Well, time for a quick look at the weather. I'm filling in for Ashley again tonight, and what a beautiful morning we woke up to for much of the island. Some freshly fallen snow. Thank you so much to Kathleen Schapter of St. John's for sending in this photo. And if you're wondering how much snow fell overnight tonight, well, you can thank Rodney Barney at Environment Canada for counting it up for us. So Rocky Harbour saw 24.7 centimeters of snow from yesterday as of 11:30 this morning. And St. John saw 11.8 centimeters of snow overnight. So we do have some warnings to tell you about, blowing snow advisory to tell you about as well. I'll get into all of those details a bit later.
Thanks, Carolyn. Well, not one, not two, not three, but 4 vehicles belonging to the Association for New Canadians have been either burglarized or stolen over the past few days. The first, a standard black minivan, was taken sometime between Friday and Monday. Then yesterday, another discovery. 2 more cargo-style vans had been broken into, and a 24-passenger bus was stolen.
On any given day, our transportation division are responsible for supporting all of our programming for newcomers. On any given day, we'll move 400 plus students for our ESL program, English as a Second Language. We do support our settlement and resettlement services through these vehicles. So this was devastating to the organization. There was a lot of quick stepping to get contingencies in place.
They're pretty nimble, though. Exactly how the ANC is keeping its programming going and a look at the damage, as well as an update on the investigation into what happened with these vehicles, is coming up later on Here Now.
A couple in Deer Lake say they've been stuck waiting to move for more than a decade. And because they're on a fixed income and living in Newfoundland and Labrador housing, they can't do it alone. Here Now's Troy Turner has that story.
Holly and David Gunn don't have family in Deer Lake. They want to move to Central, where they would have more support. But on a fixed income, they say they can't afford it on their own.
It seems like nobody cares if we're alive or dead. I had a brother that phoned me just last night from Alberta. He wants to know how I'm doing. And I got my sister-in-law, because my brother don't like being on the phone. So she phones and tells him all the news. But that's the only way we can do it, is back and forth like that on the phone. That's the only way I get to see my family.
The Gunns were living in housing in Gander, but Holly says they needed a bigger, more accessible space because of her health issues. That's how the couple ended up in Deer Lake. But shortly after arriving, mobility issues left them both housebound. So they packed up most of their belongings and waited, hoping to move one more time, closer to family, a support system. Boxes of their belongings have been sitting in the house for years.
We just want to move out to Grand Falls, where a lot of our family is right by and that comes to see us. And Dave just turned 70, so like you said, he haven't got too many more years. So when he goes, he wants to be buried in his hometown, North Harp South. So that's what he's hoping for when he get out there.
Lately, they've been having issues with their home. There's been water in the basement. A cold winter draft is blowing up through the house. Making matters worse, the guns aren't able to lift heavy objects, so garbage has been piling up inside and outside of the home. Newfoundland and Labrador Housing would not do an interview with us. Due to privacy concerns, they won't discuss specific clients either. But in a statement, Housing listed reasons a move would be considered. Being closer to family is not one of them. The statement also said there is a process for dealing with maintenance issues in one of its homes.
People complained about COVID, not seeing the family. Let them go through what we had all those years, and they'll know what it's like. And often crying and stuff like that in the room, can't sleep.
The Guns plan to keep pushing for a transfer to central Newfoundland and plan to lobby politicians to fight on their behalf. Troy Turner, CBC News, Deer Lake.
More reaction tonight on Ottawa's plan to aggressively reduce carbon emissions by 2030. One of the sectors being called upon to make deep emissions cuts, of course, the oil and gas industry. It's the single largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. And as Terry Roberts reports, that's raising questions about how the industry in this province will evolve and whether the proposed Bay du Nord project still has a future.
The catchphrase for this plan: clean air and a strong economy. But the big question, can our industry survive in an environment where oil and gas emissions are to be cut by more than 40% over 2019 levels over the next 8 years? The Energy Minister says yes.
They recognize the fact that oil and gas are necessities. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, you may even see an increase.
Industry supporters in this province believe the offshore has an advantage. Carbon emissions during the production of oil in the offshore is about 20% lower than the global average. Accepting that fossil fuels will be required for decades to come, Ottawa's climate plan makes specific mention of offering lower carbon oil and gas to the world.
When you look at where the federal government wants to be by 2030 for the oil sector, we're already there.
So what does this mean for Bay du Nord? The Environment Minister is expected to hand down a decision on the massive Equinor-led project next month. But supporters do not believe Bay du Nord will be derailed by Ottawa's climate plan.
And at 8 kilograms a barrel, it will be the lowest carbon per barrel project in Canada and one of the lowest in the world. So it is a great fit.
They recognize that this meets the environmental scrutiny. It's past the Impact Assessment Agency. I think this puts us in good stead.
But environmental groups disagree.
We don't need the oil. So I think when it comes to Bay du Nord, based on what we heard yesterday, it's a no-brainer. The project should be rejected.
The Energy Minister says the province will continue to pursue oil projects, while at the same time eyeing renewable energy options.
We have renewable, we have non-renewable. We don't think we need to pick one. We think we can bet on both.
The plan proposes a $2 billion futures fund to help workers prepare for a low-carbon economy. Parsons welcomes such an investment.
We've got projects that are going to be operating for some time. We have aspirations to see operations in hydrogen, in wind, and other renewables. So we're going to need to increase our workforce.
When it comes to reducing emissions, the Prime Minister says this is no time for excuses. And groups like Energy NL say they're ready to step up.
We can contribute to the global energy mix. That's going to be needed for decades to come.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, for some newcomers to the province, it takes time to adapt to the culture, the food, and of course the weather.
Yes, in an effort to break the ice, the Association for New Canadians in Labrador West held an event at the Menahek Nordic Ski Club to introduce dozens of people to a new pastime, snowshoeing.
This is my second year helping out Bill Soper for helping the new Canadians to experience our trails. It's fun, we enjoy it, and it's a great way to them introduce to other people that's in our community and let them know that, you know, this community is about meeting people and helping people.
I was a bit nervous and excited at the same time because it's my first time.
Kind of excited to see what's going on.
Okay guys, we're heading out.
Hi, my name is Afiza and I have been a volunteer with ANC for the past 2.5 years. We're doing this for the second time, and we're really excited. We're looking forward to the walk and then to the little entertainment that we have inside. I think there's a lot to take away. It's like the bonding, the friendship, the fun that we have. It's everything. So they come single and then they go back with lots of friendship. So it's good. We have a larger number than last year. So I know we're going to have more in the coming years.
Well, you could have done some snowshoeing in St. John's this morning, but it seems like a lot of the snow that fell overnight last night melted throughout the day today. I'll get into all of the weather details, let you know what's coming our way after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Okay, it is weather time once again. Let's start with a look at the highs today in the province. Not too bad, hovering around the freezing mark for most places today. It looks like Happy Valley Goose Bay was the hot spot today. 1 degree is the high in Churchill Falls. On the island, temperatures hovering between 3 and 1 degree in the St. John's area. So let's have a look at how things are shaping up outside right now. This is a look at St. John's Harbor. Not a bad evening out there, certainly different from what we were looking at last night for sure. Temperatures right now 0 in St. John's, but it's going to feel much cooler, -7 with that wind chill. And it was pretty windy throughout the day today, and that's going to continue for much of tonight. We have winds southwesterly gusting 30 to 50 tonight, and windier as well along the coast with gusts upwards of 70 kilometers an hour. So here's a look at the weather on the way headlines. We have more snow coming for the west coast. I bet the skiers are going to be pretty happy about that. Stormy weather for northern Labrador. That's continuing tonight. And we have a chance of some morning flurries for much of the island tomorrow. So let's have a closer look at how that's shaping up. We do have this snowfall warning in place for the west coast. Now, only 5 to 10 centimeters, it says, for this evening, but that is on top of all of the snow that has already fallen. So with that freshly fallen snow from throughout the day today, you'll see some reduced visibility, that sort of thing. So another 5 to 10 centimeters coming tonight, but once again, that's on top of what has already fallen today. And same kind of story for Labrador, for the Cartwright and Makkovik area. Winter storm warning in place. 10 centimeters for this evening, but once again, that's on top of everything that has already fallen. And for the Hopedale area, that blowing snow advisory for this evening, 10 centimeters with strong winds blowing all of that freshly fallen snow around and reducing visibility. So that should start to taper off overnight tonight. Here's a look at what's bringing all this snow. The system spinning around here, bringing the snow to Labrador and to the west coast, but that should taper off again tomorrow. So overnight tonight, strong winds, as I mentioned, for the St. John's area, 0 continuing as the overnight low with some flurries, and for the west coast, looking at that 5 to 10 centimeters that's coming along with that snowfall warning this evening. And for Labrador, 10 more centimeters of snow expected there. A northerly wind gusting up to 50 and some stronger winds down in the southeastern portion of Labrador in the Cartwright area, gusting up to 70 along the coast. So looking ahead to tomorrow, lots of flurries and cloud cover you can see in Labrador and the island, but nothing really significant. The Avalon Peninsula could see some flurries later in the morning, maybe early afternoon, but temperatures looking nice tomorrow. 5 degrees in the St. John's area with a westerly wind, 20 gusting to 40. So some nice light winds. Should be a fairly nice day tomorrow. Clarenville area looking at a chance of some flurries there tomorrow. Some cloudy skies for the Marystown area, 4 degrees as the high there. For central Newfoundland, Harbour Breton looking at some sunshine tomorrow, 4 degrees as the high there. Twillingate, some flurries there tomorrow, 2 degrees as the high. On the west coast, another 2 to 4 centimeters expected in the morning. That's kind of a holdover from the system that runs through there this evening. 3 degrees as the high in Corner Brook. Port aux Basques looking quite nice, along with Burgeo with some sunshine, and 4 degrees, and those winds easing as well, a westerly 20 kilometers an hour. Up along the straits, 2 to 4 centimeters expected in the morning tomorrow. Mary's Harbour, 1 degree as the high. Those winds easing throughout the day tomorrow as well. For the rest of Labrador, about 5 more centimeters coming down in the morning hours. Winds easing there as well, and looking quite nice for the Churchill Falls area, and some nice light winds in the west. Now, we do have some messy weather on the way as we start to head into the weekend. You can see that mix of snow and freezing rain and some rain that will be pushing through later on Friday, some snow in Labrador West. I'll get into all of those details in the long-range forecast coming up. And now we have a weather story for you. Climate change will have a profound effect on our land as summers grow hotter and winters become shorter. For Canadian farmers, it could mean more frequent droughts. And while there may also be more precipitation, how and when it rains can make a big difference. CBC meteorologist Christy Kleimenhaga explains.
You've probably heard scientists say that we will likely see more droughts in the prairies as our climate changes. But why is that? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First, while we'll likely see more precipitation overall, timing is a factor. We'll see more of that precipitation in winter and spring with more rain and less snow. While that might sound appealing, snow is actually a natural storage for water and can replenish soils gradually as it melts. Less snow means less storage, and to make matters worse, winter rains can form an icy layer on top of the frozen ground that can further reduce absorption. And in the summer, when we really need the rain, we'll probably see more of those big storms that flood landscapes as opposed to those gentle soaking rains we like to see. And with all the hot weather, expect more evaporation, so a lot of that water won't even stick around. Now, the good news is, as our climate changes, so do we. We've come a long way since, say, the dirty 30s at preparing for droughts and adapting our farming practices to get our crops the moisture they need.
Well, it's Wednesday, and if the past several weeks are any indication, you're going to go to bed tonight with gas prices being what they are now, and then when you wake up, almost by magic, those prices are going to be transformed. But will they be up, down, flat? What's it going to be? Well, Dan McTagg is the president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, and he joins us from Calgary this evening. We're going to talk about fuel prices once again. Dan, I don't want to pin you to whatever your crystal ball says, but what's going on?
Oh, my crystal ball's been smashed to pieces. I can't figure out what I know what the market tells me, but I can't guess what the regulators at the PUB are going to come up with. The market tells me, Anthony, that we're looking at about a 3.5 cent a liter decrease minimum. It's also telling me that we should be seeing about 11 cent decrease for diesel.
Whoa.
And it's also telling me that when it comes to stove oil, furnace oil, unfortunately, there's the bad news. We're looking at least a 12 cent increase. But again, I can only go by what the markets offer, and I predict accurately for the rest of the country. But, you know, when you have these random use, and it's now serial use of the interrupter clause, it's not just confusing for consumers, it's confusing for guys like me that are supposed to know.
Now, for people who are watching, you want to explain what that is? Because I think we've thrown the term around a few times, and some people say, okay, what's this interrupter thing that guy McTagg's talking about?
Yeah, so when the market goes up or down 6 cents a liter for diesel, for gasoline, whatever, automatically, rather than waiting until the following week and getting an average of 7 days worth of gasoline prices, usually based on 5 days on the market, they have to interrupt. They have to stop that and say, hey, hang on a sec, price dropped so much or it increased so much, we got to pass that on. That'll hurt not just consumers, but more importantly, gas stations, because they'll wind up holding the bag if the price drops dramatically. Consumers wind up spending more. If the price rises dramatically and they got to hold it at a lower price, they could often lose their shirts, especially when we've seen this kind of volatility, the likes of which I've never seen. I agree with the PUB. It has been a real bad time, unprecedented, but I think it really speaks to the more important issue. People have been predicting gasoline prices for about 20, 25 years. Myself, George Murphy before me, and it's being done by other folks across the country. I think we kind of want to let the market do its job. Predict 2 days in advance, I think gives people plenty of time.
Okay, well, before I let you go, I understand there's also some different, we know the war in Ukraine's had an impact, but there's also a situation in China as well?
Yeah, look, we are seeing this decrease in large part because of yet another wave of COVID gripping China. And of course, China has taken a very strong position with respects to lockdowns. The largest commercial center, Shanghai, effectively shut down on Monday. That sent the shivers across markets saying, well, if China's not going to be using any more oil because everybody's going to be staying at home, demand won't be there. And therefore, we saw oil dropped, what, 10, 11 bucks a barrel. It's back up now, almost recovered half of that. So, it could be any news headline right now will drive prices up or down. But generally speaking, Anthony, I don't see us getting out of these real high prices anytime soon. And let's not forget, Friday morning, the federal government's 2.5 cent a liter carbon tax kicks in. It's 2.21 cents a liter plus 15%, which is your HST tax on tax. That's just going to, whatever you get, Thursday is the best day to gas up. Friday, look to pay a little bit more.
All right. Well, I don't believe in shooting the messenger, and it's always good to talk to you, Dan. Thank you very much.
Great to be here. Thanks, Anthony.
You're looking at the damage and mess caused by a bunch of vandals here at the Association for New Canadians. That group helps newcomers with all these vehicles. There's also a missing 24-seat bus in this story. Stay tuned. Well, I'm at the Association for New Canadians here in the parking lot where there's some mischief, some vandalism, a story to tell you about. And joining me now is Wayne Pierce. He's the Senior Operations Manager with the Association for New Canadians. So what happened?
Hi, Anthony. Good to be with you.
Nice to see you
nice to see you as well. So what happened, we began our normal operations on Monday the 28th. After some internal investigation, we noticed that one of our minivans were missing. We were able to ascertain that it had gone disappeared sometime between Friday evening and Monday morning.
Right. This is a regular kind of minivan?
Just a regular Dodge Caravan, black in color.
Yeah.
A little bit of damage on the passenger sliding door on the right side.
Okay.
But just a very common minivan. So we went through normal processes internally. We did reach out to the RNC, filed a report on the missing vehicle, and that investigation is ongoing.
Right.
So on the 29th, which was yesterday, myself and a colleague came to this parking area at about 7 a.m. And when we were both coming to the vehicles, we noticed that we had received some damage, as you can see.
Along the side there, yeah.
On the sides of the vehicles, and the interiors had been gone through. And
so that's both these vehicles, right?
Both of these vehicles right here,
Okay.
absolutely.
So smashing the windows.
Smashed out the windows, general disarray in the vehicle, and of course then, we put these vehicles off limits because of course we want to give the RNC an opportunity to do their processes.
Right.
While we were in both investigating and discussing this event, we did notice at this space right here, our 24 passenger bus, it's assigned space.
Yeah.
We did notice that this bus was missing.
So there should be a bus here that has 24 seats in it?
Absolutely. It's a Ford E450 24 passenger Glaval Universal bus. It's a substantial vehicle, white in color. And
not everybody can just get in there and drive that, right?
In the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, you are required to have a Class 4 license, which will give you the ability and the training to drive such a vehicle.
So do you think, maybe the driver had the bus, or?
Yeah, so oddly enough, as we were investigating this current damage, I did reach out to the permanent driver on that vehicle. Yeah. Just in the event maybe they had gotten an early start, etc. Once I had that conversation with the driver, it was confirmed that he had the key. I was able to confirm that we had the spare key, and
but not the bus.
But not the bus.
Okay, so what happened to the bus?
So oddly enough, we did go through these processes with the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary and filed our reports, gave statements.
Yeah.
At about 8:45 this morning, I received a call on our transportation line from a former colleague who indicated that they thought they may have seen our bus at a local address here close to Torbay Road.
Okay.
And upon further investigation by myself, I did pop over, and
lo and behold,
here's our bus.
I don't mean to laugh because it's obviously not funny, but how many people do you move around with these vehicles?
So that's a really good question, Anthony. On any given day, our transportation division are responsible for supporting all of our programming for newcomers. On any given day, we'll move 400 plus students for our ESL program, English as a Second Language. We do support our settlement and resettlement services through these vehicles. So this was devastating to the organization. There was a lot of quick stepping to get contingencies in place to make sure that. Right. Yeah, and mayhem.
Yeah.
The work still goes on even if you don't have the equipment.
Yeah. So the bus, obviously, the RNC's taken the bus away to continue the investigation. It's a bit damaged. These are damaged. So how are you going to get things back to normal soon?
So, as we mentioned, we've engaged a third-party supplier.
Okay.
So we do have the capacity again now to ensure that our service delivery is seamless.
Yeah.
But it now it becomes a lot of the administrative pieces. We have to deal now with body shops, insurance companies, and make sure we're following processes for the RNC. But the impact is substantial.
Right.
But we're confident and pretty sure that we'll just continue on business as usual.
All right. Well, I don't know what foolish people would do such a thing, but anyway, I'm glad to see you're getting back on your feet, and good luck.
Thanks very much, Anthony, and thanks for reaching out to us today.
faint glimmers of hope that were sparked by talks between Ukraine and Russia appear to have faded. Yesterday, after negotiations in Turkey, Russian officials said the country's forces would pull back operations around the capital, Kiev. But today, the chief spokesman for President Vladimir Putin said there are no signs of any breakthrough yet, and there's still a lot of work ahead. Suburbs to the east of Kiev have been hit hard with more bombardments. Officials in the region say there has been no let-up. West of the capital, the suburb of Irpin has been retaken by Ukrainian forces, but the area has been devastated by Russian assaults. And Russian forces hit a fuel depot about 200 kilometers west of Kiev overnight. The fire is now believed to be out. The strike is seen as part of a new Russian strategy to target essential supplies.
And more than 4 million refugees have now fled Ukraine, and every single one of the country's western neighbors is feeling the impact of that movement of people. CBC's Briar Stewart has this report now from a refugee center in Hungary's capital.
The group behind me just arrived from Ukraine. Now, they were taken by train from the border to the city of Budapest, and they were brought here by bus to a sports center. And the very first thing they have to do when they arrive is be registered. So that's what these people are doing now. And after that, there are a few things they can do at the sports center. We're going to take a walk down here and see the stations that they have set up. Now, everyone who comes here can get a SIM card right away. They can get a meal. They can get help. They have translators on staff here. But really, Hungary for most of these people is just a stop on a very long and exhaustive journey. Over there in the corner, you can see people lined up. What they're lining up for are bus tickets and train tickets on to their next destination. We spoke with some people here who've been traveling for 5 days. One family who went out through Moldova, went through Romania. Now they're in Hungary, they're going to Austria, and their final destination is actually Germany. Now, the vast majority of refugees here are not staying, but Hungary says it's seen 400,000 transit through here already. Hungary is a country in the European Union that has a track record of anti-immigration policies. There's a very long fortified border fence with the border with Serbia. In recent years, it's dismantled the asylum system, and a lot of people have remarked at the difference between how refugees from Afghanistan and Syria have been treated versus the refugees from Ukraine. But of course, it is important to note that the vast majority of people who have come through here will not be staying. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Budapest.
The brutality of Russia's invasion in Ukraine is clear once you step into one of its still working hospitals. In Kiev, the country's largest children's hospital has been treating some of the war's youngest victims. Now, the images from inside are difficult to look at, and we will spare you from the worst of them.
But still a warning, you are about to see pictures of young children with severe injuries, and not all of these children survived. CBC News Network host Heather Hiscox takes us through some other stories.
The sounds of shelling over Okmadid Hospital. Inside, exhausted medical staff do all they can to save as many lives as possible. This patient, a 4-year-old boy from Kyiv, a Russian shell hit his backyard. Below that thermal blanket is a gaping wound on his back. Surgeons remove shrapnel and damaged tissue. Recovery will take a long time.
Она взорвалась слева. Осколки от стекол на машине посыпались в меня и в маму.
Vadia is just 7 years old. A mine exploded just meters from the car she was in at a Russian checkpoint in Irpin. She spent 3 days in a local hospital before being transferred. The journey was a treacherous one. Soldiers had to carry her across a destroyed bridge. At Okmadid, doctors operated for hours to get the shrapnel lodged in her body. She's had multiple surgeries on her legs as well. Her mother says Vadia wants most to be home and for the war to end. Of course, the wounds you can't see might be the ones that will last the longest. 6-year-old Milana watched her mother die when a Russian missile hit their house near Hostomel. She bears the pain of injury and multiple surgeries on her legs, but the far greater pain is her irreplaceable loss. Her way of remembering? Hearts for her mom. She draws them every day.
Mama, here is, she paint Mama.
Then there are the stories we will never hear. Someone placed the body of this little boy outside the hospital after he died. We don't know what happened to him, but in his image we see what has happened to the youngest victims of this war.
Well, back in this country, many Indigenous men and boys wear their hair in braids. It's a long tradition that not everyone understands. A young boy in Alberta was recently teased over his hair, but his mother and his school saw it as a chance to teach others about Indigenous culture. Travis McEwen has that story.
In the sea of grade 2 students sits Tiberius Saddleback. The curious 7-year-old catches up on some reading. But the Cree student hasn't always been comfortable in the class. A little over a month ago, he told his mother, Akasha Hartman, he was teased about his braids.
This year has come to us with kids saying that he shouldn't have his hair this long because it's for girls and all this kind of stuff. And it broke my heart because, well, he's my son and he shouldn't be embarrassed by his culture.
He told her he wanted to cut his hair. How did you feel?
Bad.
How come?
I didn't like it.
Hoping to change his mind, Hartman told Saddleback's teacher about the issue, and she says the school took immediate action. That's where Sheila Potts comes in. Potts is an elder with the Montana First Nation and works for Wolf Creek Public Schools. She visited Saddleback's class to talk about why some of the men and boys of some Indigenous nations wear braids.
My teaching is because it's a family unity, right? And you're intertwining your family together. And that's what I told the grade 2s. I also told them that, you know, it's our ancestors did those, and they had long, beautiful, beautiful hair.
The school district employs 3 elders who also work here at Pinoca Elementary School. And for staff here, the experience highlights the importance of having elders in the school.
To me, it's about having First Nations students have a voice, take up space in the classroom, and be very proud of who they are and where they come from. And a lot of it has to do with education, and some of our younger children maybe have not seen or gone to school with a First Nation student. And so the idea of having long hair and a boy having a long braid is something very different to them. And so our job is to teach, and we're very thrilled to have the elders come in and provide those opportunities and work alongside us.
Hartman says her son's attitude towards his hair has changed since Potts talked to his class, and is happy the school has the resources in place to address the situation.
He wears his braids with honor now, and he's never embarrassed of them. We always try and at least have one braid, even if it's a little bit hidden, but he always wants to have that one braid in his hair, no matter what.
As for Saddleback, he doesn't know how long he'll grow his hair, but he just feels comfortable with it now, with no plans to cut it. Travis McEwen, CBC News, Pinoca.
Well, Anthony, we're about to journey back to 1980. It was a time when small stores in the province were starting to lose out on business.
Last time we traveled back in time, I got to see some of your dance moves, but we're going way too far back.
Yeah,
right?
This is much farther back.
Right. There was some new competition in town, something bigger and more convenient for customers. Malls were moving in and they were taking over retail sales.
Have a look.
Until now, there hasn't been much concern about the proliferation of shopping centers in Newfoundland. But in the past 15 years, the new centers have captured 34% of retail sales across the province. And small businesses are getting worried that they may lose out completely to large mainland firms. In a repeat of what's already happened on the mainland, centers move into the outskirts of a community and draw customers with their large free parking lots and big national department stores. Local businesses, generally in the old downtown area, with narrow streets and little parking, lose out in two ways. If they stay downtown, they find customers have left, and if they try to move into the new center, they find local stores have to pay much higher rent than the large national stores. That, they say, is unfair.
The biggest reasons here would be that if we allow it to proliferate as it has been, that eventually there'll be no Newfoundland businesses left, that will be controlled by national chains who will have a monopoly on the whole province. And once that happens, then the Mrs. Consumer or Mr. Consumer is going to pay inevitably more.
The Independent Business Association represents 150 small businesses across Newfoundland and Labrador. They want the government to set up guidelines for shopping center development, much as Nova Scotia has done. So a new development wouldn't be refused by City Council and then move a few hundred yards down the road outside city limits. That happened recently in St. John's. They say if the government doesn't act soon, it'll be too late to save the downtown areas in many communities. John McQuaker, CBC News, St. John's.
Okay, time now for a look at the long-range forecast, but starting with a quick recap of some of the stormier weather that's on the way tonight. We still have that snowfall warning in place for the Corner Brook area up along the northern peninsula. About 10 more centimeters of snow expected to fall tonight. That should subside overnight this evening. And winter storm warning in place for the Makovic and Cartwright area tonight. Not a whole lot of snow left to fall, but on top of everything that's fallen today, it's going to make for some messy weather there tonight with some low visibility. And we also have that blowing snow advisory in the Hopedale area. Okay, so tomorrow, another look at what's to come. St. John's looking quite nice, actually. 5 degrees as the high tomorrow with a chance of some flurries. Similar story for the Grand Falls, Windsor area. Temperatures a little bit lower there. Corner Brook looking at some flurries in the morning, but that should subside throughout the day. And some light winds there. Looking up to Labrador tomorrow, some sunshine for the Straits, 2 degrees as the high, and some more flurries to come for the Nain area, -3 as the high tomorrow. So let's look at Friday when we have this system that will be coming through, bringing a real messy mix for the island. Some snowfall for Labrador West, but you can see how it starts off with some snow and then it turns into rain and freezing rain there. So it's going to be pretty messy, but for most of the day on Friday, it's looking pretty nice. Some cloud cover for most of the island, 4 degrees as the high in St. John's, 5 in Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor, 2 in Marystown. So for much of Friday, we won't be seeing that system. It's only later in the evening that should push through, but Port aux Basques, Corner Brook, the West Coast should start seeing that a little bit earlier in the day. That messy mix, 4 degrees in Corner Brook on Friday, and you can see that snowfall for Labrador West and Happy Valley Goose Bay on Friday, which will pick up into the evening. So looking ahead to Saturday, some rain on the way for the east and some snow and rain for the west, and some snow as well for parts of Labrador. Looking at 7 degrees as the high on Saturday in St. John's. Great temperature, but it is going to be a wet one. But as I like to say, it's good for the garden, so we don't mind that one bit. On the west coast, Corner Brook looking at some showers there as well, mixed with some flurries and some flurries up through Labrador throughout the day on Saturday. So the 5-day forecast at 7 degrees on Saturday, temperatures dipping a little bit on Sunday, things clearing off a bit, and some more rainfall coming as we start the work week on Monday. For central Newfoundland, similar story, a wet Saturday, some clearing, and then some more wet weather coming through. And for the west, looking at some sunshine on Monday, looking quite nice, 5 degrees as the high there. For Labrador, looking at some cloud cover on Sunday as well as on Monday, but temperatures above 0 in the daytime. For the western part of Labrador, mix of sun and cloud on Sunday and Monday, and temperatures taking a bit of a dip on Monday, -5 as the high there. So let's stay in Labrador, Western Labrador, for our weather viewer photo of the day. Love to see the northern lights. This was taken near Albert Lake near Labrador City, and Larry Jenkins sent this to us. Thank you so much, Larry. Beautiful shot. Yeah, and Anthony, I'm not really sure when Larry took that photo, but some interesting news about the northern lights. A geomagnetic storm watch was issued today after a series of powerful solar eruptions, and this means the northern lights could be visible in this province tonight through Friday. It's all thanks to something called the KP index.
This is like being in science class at the very end of the show.
I don't know much about this, just looked it up. The higher the index, apparently, the further south you're likely to see the northern lights. And unfortunately, some heavy cloud cover may spoil the show here, but still worth keeping an eye to the sky just in case. You never know.
When's the quiz?
It would be so cool to see the northern lights in St. John's.
It would, and I think we're due that.
Yes, it would be great.
Anyhow, listen, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks a lot for watching.
Good night.